It is 3 o'clock. All right, thank you all. Call the regular meeting of the Board of Public Works for May 25th to order. So stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence. Thank you. So, for the record, let it be known that Presley, Richard Nichols, and myself are present. Earl Webb is on by telecom. Tom Owen is excused. And we have our newest member who will be sworn in shortly, Barbara Curtis, currently sitting in the audience before she gets in the hot seat. Andrew is not here. Is he still away?
No, he's
Okay. Austin Calliman, Robin Davis, and Mike Hoffman is in attendance. So the consent agenda. Do you have any questions or a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor? Aye. So it's 4 with one not present. So Inframark report. Mike or Jeff? Oh,
Hi, gentlemen. How you doing today?
Good, Mike.
Good.
Okay, so on regarding the headworks, we did get the replacement circuit panel in earlier this week. That project's going to be pushed on our schedule because we have some more pressing stuff for our electrician to do. The oxidation ditch cracks were repaired the week of 5/11, went very well. We had to bring down the whole train because there was a plate at the bottom in the anoxic tank that wasn't sealed properly. That'll be addressed in the fall when we take them down again for the resealing of the surface.
can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's like, I think part of the original oxidation ditch there, you know, there's a weir where the wastewater travels over, but at the bottom of each tank, there's a rectangular opening, and the anoxic tank had a steel plate over top of that opening, but the bolts, the anchors had rusted away, and it wasn't sealed properly. So it would have took some time to make the repair. And we couldn't be in there while the contractors were doing their work. So we decided that it's going to be taken down. And I'm not even sure that it's necessary. It just would have been more convenient for this project because we would only had to pump down the anoxic tank. But we ended up having to pump down the whole train, which just you know, was a little more work and time intensive, but ended up everything went well, and got the contractors in there, and 2 days they did their work, and we were able to leave the train offline for the whole weekend to cure, and then we put it back online first thing Monday morning.
So is that a repair you can do, or do you need engineering support?
I think we're going to discuss whether it needs to be replaced. I'm not sure exactly why it's there, but we would be able to do it. We would, you know, have the plate prefabbed with the holes in it. So we wouldn't have to drill down there and anchor it. We can run any of our plans by GMB to make sure that, you know, they're on board.
Charlie O'Donnell from GMB. Were you aware of this, or do you have any opinion?
I was aware of it. They were put in there for operational flexibility, not, I guess, thinking 15 years out that the plates might and the bolts might rust through. So, but we can certainly talk it over with the operators about, you know, how we want to make any improvements to that whole part of it. I will say that, and Mike, jump in on this. From what I know from the crack repairs, and, you know, part of what we were going to do was also investigate the rest of the tank. That it might be worthwhile to repair some cracks. We were going to use, well, we're just going to use the anoxic tank as an indication of what the rest of the tank was. But I think that we found out that there's probably some other things that we want to do, at least before we code it again, in terms of crack repairs.
So, two things, because I was out there looking at the tank, and from what I saw, I think we're at a little bit less risk. The cracks seem to be of continuous length and depth, width from top to bottom. So it doesn't appear that it's bending.
No.
So,
Yeah, I think we were pretty pleased with what we've found. That wasn't, you know, terrible situation, which, you know, we were kind of preparing for that, but thinking that it could be like that, but it definitely wasn't.
And I assume these plates were carbon steel with carbon steel anchors,
I'm not sure, Mike. Do you
or
remember
was it
what they were?
dielectric?
I believe the plate was stainless, but I'm not sure about the anchors, and we're not sure that there was even an anchor at the bottom. There was, it appeared to be 3 anchors, you know, one at the top and one on each side. And there would be difficult to catch the bottom. So, you know, because the plate was pretty small. So we were thinking if you put a bigger plate, you could, you know, anchor it at 6 different points. So to make it, so you could get a secure hold on the bottom.
Okay,
I would say let us dig into it like the way you talked about before.
thank you. And when you refilled the tank, I haven't been out there since, there's no weepage, I assume?
Nope. I was there yesterday and checked everything out. Everything looks good.
All right. I'm sorry,
And Mike, this is Earl. When Tom and I were out there, we also noticed that you guys were pumping out the sump pump station area and going to redo the electricity in that. Was that something that you guys were able to complete?
We're about 60% done with that. Of the 10 manholes, we've done the 6 on the treatment side. We have 4 left toward the digester side to do.
Okay. Anything unusual that you didn't think was going to happen at that point, or is there everything kind of going as you'd expected?
About as we expected. Some of the pumps are still good. Some are being replaced, and changing out some of the wiring ends, putting in waterproof fittings on the ends and things like that. New junction boxes in the manholes.
It's great to have you on the team. Thank you.
and so I assume that all you're doing was like when we were out there pumping them down, determining, chasing them, but have you started any measuring yet?
No, so talking to our electrician, we need to have them dry before we try to measure. So if
Wise idea.
Well, yeah, it would also disperse the electricity if there is an issue in the water. So we wouldn't necessarily see the problem. So once we have the pumps, the manholes sucked down, we're replacing the pumps and getting to where they're staying down. And then we should be able to measure once they've dried out a little bit.
Okay.
So we are in the process of that, also looking into getting the measure. We would need to do those lines.
And it says here it's scheduled for July.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try to do it in June. That's, you know, high on our priority. The manhole need to be done before that, so we're finishing that up. And then we also ordered a control panel for pump station 16. I'm trying to get a receipt date on that, but haven't had success. But we did order it, and originally they said the lead time was about 2 weeks, but I ordered it 2 weeks ago. I called the manufacturer and they were supposed to email me back with a ship date, but haven't received that yet. So, but that's kind of the priority list. And that's why the Headworks lighting panel got pushed back, because that's not a high priority.
Yeah, and I see you have noted here the headwork replacement. I know the bid opening is tomorrow, so hopefully. Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did have just to add to this, we had the pump station in the back at Cape Shores. That one had electrical issues. I was gonna say in my GM, but it's prevalent to this. We ended up fixing it twice. We think that the issue was it was hit by, it was a single fed primary coming from out on Cape Henlopen Drive, down East Cape Shores Drive, and feeds it. It was direct bury. Every single time we fixed it, we were chasing another issue. So we commend the city of Milford came down, helped us out. We used some of their equipment to help locate it. And what we ended up doing is we contracted with AccuTrench, drilled in a brand new conduit, directional drill. They tried to do it in one bore. They couldn't do it. They actually lost the first bore. So they put new conduit in all the way back so that if anything ever goes bad in the future, we can just pull new electric wire. So it was about a week, a little over a week, 2 weeks maybe, until we got everything back up and running. But it's up and running. The irrigation company was here yesterday, fixed all the irrigation where the pit's at. There's one driveway that needs to be repaired, which is being repaired. And then we should be all good.
So you say they lost the first bore, it collapsed, I assume, because of water infiltration,
Well,
sand and.
yeah, that's probably, there was comments made that that's probably one of the worst areas that they've ever had to bore. Yeah. It's not a long bore. It was what, 100 or 820, 850 feet, but they lost it at 450.
All right, Mike, continue.
Okay, so on that note, we did have to get a portable generator out there at pump station 74. We had to rent it for a month. That's been returned. The rates, the way the rate structure works, if you rent it for more than two weekly rates, it's costs the same as a month. So but there was the meter shorted out, I guess, throughout this whole project. So we ordered a new meter can, and we have to coordinate with BPW electrical crew because they have to take the power down again. And our electrician's going to install that. I believe we're trying to get to that next week. So back to the filters, finish UF train 4 beginning of May. We've been working on the first cassette in train 1. That cassette has significantly more debris and sludging. I think train 1 during some issues last year, we were using train 1 harder than probably train 4. I think we were having some. That was back when we were still having some air issues where we were having issues with showing turbidity or whatever, nuisance alarms because of air, but we seem to have all that worked out. So hopefully the other 2 cassettes in train 1 will be a little better. But we have, is that they were going to put the cassette back in today, so we would have train 1 available for the weekend if flows got too high.
I was a little surprised because we were out there right after they pulled cassette 1, the first cassette in train 1, and it looked much cleaner than I've ever seen a cassette come out. So I was a little surprised when this made that it's significantly more, because it was very limited to the top 6 inches or so.
Yeah, I mean, compared to before, they're very much cleaner. Train 4 went really well. It was you know, there was not a lot of ragging, so we were optimistic, because I mean, the guys flew through train 1, we got it done really, or train 4, we got it done really quick. But yeah, no, compared to the first time back in 2021 when we pulled the trains, yes, they're a lot better.
And even from last year, I mean, the trains that were done, it just seemed much cleaner. And the hosing process that you guys are using now really seems to help out a lot.
Yes, sir. The 4 was not as bad as 1. 1 is worse, but it still seems better than what I've seen in photos of the cassettes prior to that, though.
And the cassette that they pull first is always the worst, because it's, you know,
It'll be very interesting
upstream.
what the 2 cassettes look like down.
Yep.
But I mean, it looks like the no wipes in the pipes, the cleaning of the headworks, everything. It, in my opinion, it seems like things are getting better. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, train 4, I mean, the guys really moved through that very quick.
And they did find a couple of damaged strands, but they weren't done yet. Do you know what the final count was on?
It was minimal, less than 10, I believe.
Okay. That's kind of in line, I think, with what we saw in 4 then.
Yes.
Can you really pinpoint the cause of the wipes being reduced to the hospital? Do you think that's,
Well, we
or do
haven't
you
had,
think it's a citywide contribution?
I mean, directly from the hospital, we know that we've had less problems with pump clogging.
Mhm.
Is there any indication, like there were previously, that there were medical things that wouldn't normally be household?
We haven't been seeing any.
Good. That sounds like it was very, very successful.
And I think just in general, but I think also cleaning the wet wells and cleaning the headworks, helped.
Yes.
Because we probably were getting carryover.
That's good news.
All right, Mike, go on.
We had an issue with one of the blowers, one of the xenon blowers earlier this week. Our electrician has it, I believe, as of yesterday anyway. He thought it was the breaker, and we're trying to locate a breaker that'll fit in that bucket in the MCC. So he's working with United Electric. Square D changed their buckets, and the breakers, their breakers, or they changed their I guess they changed their breakers and their buckets. So a new breaker wouldn't fit exactly like the old one, but we think that we can work around it and still stay in compliance with the codes. The VFD appears to be okay, but we do have 2 spare, or it's a soft start, not a VFD, but we do have 2 spare soft starts available. So with one, we have five blowers, and we need 4. We need 1 for each train. So we have some redundancy, and with train 1 being in standby, we have more redundancy, but we'll get that fixed as soon as we can locate the proper breaker. A lot of stuff with the pump stations got done this past month. PS3 pump and valve replacement was completed. We did have to man the pump station overnight, 2 nights, because we didn't really trust our float system, couldn't get our float system working as well as we'd like. So we had somebody sitting out there and manning the diesel pump, the bypass pump. But everything started up well, pumps working very well. One issue that was identified is that when both pumps ran at the same time, one cavitated because of not having enough suction head. So at that pump station, each pump has its own suction line from the wet well. So it's a good problem to have. So we changed the pump settings so that the second pump would only come on in a high flow event. So and under those circumstances, there'll be enough suction head. So so that project went well. And then the day before, Harry Caswell completed the wet well and isolation valve replacement in pump station 2. So that's all done. Everything's working well there. We did order a control panel for PS16. We at another location I'm over in Pennsylvania, we found a vendor that has prefabricated control panels, and we found one that meets all our needs there. It's going to run off a pressure transducer and still have backup floats. And that was for the control panel. It was right around $3,000, I think $3,100. So we do still need to get a stainless steel junction box so that we can install, so we can get all the connections, there's a bunch of connections within the wet well that over the years, they're not in a box. So that's going to all be cleaned up and fixed. We talked about the manhole sumps and the measuring. I think that's all I had. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
2 questions. First of all, did not see the Suez biweekly reports.
I reached out to her and didn't hear anything. Yeah, we haven't got one for over a month. I gotta follow up.
Okay, if you would please.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if she moved on or what happened, but yeah, I'll follow up with that.
And the last question I had, and then we'll go to the board. The year-to-date maintenance budget. So we're still under by $32,000 but we have 2/3 of the year yet to go. Do you have any forecast on where, are there any unusual expenditures down the line? Just trying to get a handle on where we're at.
There's a couple of things. We had to rent a generator for 74 for the month, and the control panel. It's it's a lot of the work that our electrician's going to do is going to involve purchasing materials. So we're doing our best to stay on budget, but the things like the control panels, I think we're providing a lot of value if we get these control panels changed out. So, and that's something we can talk to Austin about, potentially just passing through those costs, but to stay on budget. But one of the reoccurring expenses is the generator at PS4. That's close to $1,800 a month. So that's taking almost $2,000 away from that maintenance cap. budget. You know, that,
And Kim, would it be helpful for them to provide a forecast, recognizing that things happen down the line, but recommend a forecast of where we're going to be at the end of the year? Because we're going to be on the hook for a true-up payment.
I would just, one of the things, and Mike can kind of unpack this too, is that obviously we talked about the generator and you guys approved buying it. The one thing that we realized is that generator's not set up, and we had this study done by Keystone. That generator's not set up to actually run both pumps at the same time. So we would be investing in the generator to do the job of a generator, but really it doesn't, you know, if it was me, I would rather put $60,000 into another bypass pump and have another bypass pump that would be there. But going into the O&M side, we do get a benefit from utilizing the O&M or the repairs and maintenance, even though if we have to pay an overage at the end of the year, because in some instances, and I'm going to use Hawk as an example, Inframark's rate or discount is greater than ours. So there's give and take there, but there, you know, potentially it could be helpful to see kind of what we're looking at long term.
So Kim, do we have anything in the budget for the true-up cost at the end of the year?
I did not budget anything to
Yeah.
pay
so that-
over.
So, I mean, we're 1/3 through the year, we're 2/3 through the budget. So, you know, even at the current run rate, we're going to be over.
it's,
This is not
this
that-
goes to October though. I believe that, you know, the contract year, well, it's in November. So,
That's right. This is different,
yeah, so we're halfway through the year.
but we're still 2/3 through the
Mhm. Yep.
with the escrow amount. So I think it should be helpful to Kim that we at least have a forecast.
Yeah, I can do that. That's no
Yeah.
problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions from Earl or
No.
present?
Thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, well then, thank you very much. So we'll look forward to hearing about where the Suez reports are and the other items we talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And I will say, just to reiterate Press's point, I think the community in general and the BB have done a great effort on reducing the no wipes in the pipes. So we thank the community, and I think the plant looks better than I've seen it in my tenure. So,
And Press, just to tell you about the influence, my wife was actually down at the BB hospital on 24, and they had the same signs up. So you were
Great.
heard loud and clear. So thank you.
Sussex County will thank you for this.
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. I know it's not us, but it's still, it helps everybody.
And Richard consults at BB, and he has reported that all the ambulatory facilities he's been to also have them. So.
Good.
All right, moving on. So, just a high level from my side. We attended the Sussex County Executive Planning Symposium. I attended the APPA Engineering Conference. I am delinquent and I will get my notes out. There've been a few other things that have gone on. But the engineering conference, just from a very high level, was all about electrification, EVs, the change in the market. And so I think, you know, we'll go over them next month. We held meetings, Earl, Austin, and I, with various other towns and cities in Delaware to get an understanding of how they view wastewater treatment and just from the broader picture of their BPW departments. So I think that's been very helpful. And I know Austin has an ongoing relationship with many of these communities, Rehoboth, Milford, Newcastle, throughout the area to that he can lean on. We met with Austin and I met with Ørsted Wind to get a sense for where their projects are going. We met with the Centers for Inland Bay to make introductions to Christopher, who's the new general manager.
Executive director.
Executive, yeah, couldn't remember his title is. And so that was helpful, reestablishing since Chris Basin had moved on. We had our wastewater treatment workshop last Wednesday. It was our 5th in the series. We have one scheduled for June 14th next month. And we probably will have another one in July, because I don't think we're going to reach a decision by that point. And that was all I had. Austin?
So obviously Kim and Chris are working through the 2022, 2023 audit, and I'll be kind of diving into that as time progresses here. The contractor, Teal Construction, we sent a notification out yesterday, that they'll be out there starting next week. If I had to take a guess, it'd probably be towards the end of next week. But they're going to be out there starting the water main work. The water main work's pretty shallow, so it should move fairly quickly, knock on wood. We also held the BPW election on May 13th, and congratulations to everybody that obviously came out, but Press and Barbara for being elected. I also wanted to thank, Sue, Bill, Elaine, Chris, Sharon. It was a long day. We had a little bit of rain, but it was, a good turnout, and everybody stuck through it to the end.
Well, actually, along that line, so what was the turnout? What the final vote was?
We had a total of 349 in person and 111 in absentee.
And so,
Out of a total of how many registered?
1,081 total.
so I might take exception to the good turnout. Was disappointed, given everything that is going on at the BPW and the decisions in front of us. So that's my personal opinion. That's
We did have some people come that were unregistered.
Correct.
And
I think that we had ones that did show up, they registered right there for next election. So
I think you guys did a great job. I'm disappointed.
It went off very efficiently.
Yes,
I heard no complaints, no grumbling about not being able to be served quickly. So. very nice.
we did the tour of the Wolf Neck facility, which we had Barbara and Mark attended, some other people from the public press attended, Earl attended. It was a good, even though it was windy, I think it was a good eye-opening experience to see that facility. Press has a lot of experience there. But it really was truly kind of remarkable how that's just tucked away back there, and it's all farmland. It's very quiet. The lagoons are absolutely massive. We received the APPA Certificate of Excellence and Reliability Award. And that goes, to our linemen and our electric department. There's 3 guys that run and are responsible for, along with Patrick, but those 3 guys, the 3 linemen, they're responsible for a very large amount of infrastructure. They do a very good job. So that kudos off to them. And our new rates went into effect, which was adopted in April of 2022. It's another year. And we started working on the cost of service study with Dawn Lund and UFS. So we started that process, had an initial meeting. They want a lot of information in which Kim is doing kind of the large amount of legwork on. But I'll need to step in and do some stuff as well too for the forecasting piece of it.
And that's rates plus impact fees.
Yes, it's a combined project, but that's what we're working on together. Josh, are you holding off on yours?
I prepared a brief summary, but.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
Moving forward, I had requested that we kind of change my approach so I can get a little bit more of a conversation between the board. In this setting, we're not able to ask as many questions for some of the security related items. Tom Owen kind of brought that to my attention last month, and because of that, I think the best course of action is to kind of move this to an executive session, and then you guys can have conversations as needed.
Yeah, and just for the public's, what Josh just said there was, we have to be very careful with cybersecurity and all of those type of items. And it's not about keeping things from the public, but it's about protecting the public and BPW. So.
Yeah, well, on that nature, or on that topic, we have been seeing our new norm with our security related threats. We are still handling them appropriately. We've implemented, we're slow rolling out one of our newest solutions, and our staff is starting to see some of the new reports as they come out with our new vendor, because we are layering our security, and it's helping make some of the threats that we're facing. We've seen several threats get caught by several different filters, so they are working in conjunction with one another, and I believe it's significantly improving our security stature. The IT role isn't just computers. In this department, we're also taking care of some physical security components as well. And with that, we're doing upgrades to our water treatment plant. We're upgrading a lot of the camera systems there, in addition to some other physical hardening. We are running through our punch list items right now of the bulk of their first phase. And we're looking to wrap that up probably by mid next week. But mid next week, we should have that punch list complete, and then we'll be rolling on to phase 2. Let me see here. We're also we're starting our conversations with the penetration test company that we do annually. They do an outside perspective on what our cybersecurity hygiene looks like. So we hire them, and they hack us. We'll try to hack us. We have started those conversations, and we're looking to begin that process the end of June, beginning of July, depending on schedules. Couple things. Okay. At our wastewater plant, at our water plant, we did have a power surge come in from the ISP's feed line, and it blew out our modem and our firewall, and we were able to quickly replace those. It was traced out that it was a lack of grounding, and we're grounding. I lost the words. Yeah, appropriately. Thank you.
That's a first, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
We are grounded.
We are grounded. Thank you.
This was
And humid and humbled.
so this was a low power system, not a.
It was a feed from Comcast. The technician said that there was a surge somewhere from their tap into our line, and because of lack of grounding on the outside of the building from the Comcast box, the surge fed into our modem, shorted out our modem and our firewall. The modem was leased product, or a leased modem from Comcast. They replaced that, no charge. And then the firewall was under warranty, so we were able to replace that next day. With minimal downtime. And continuing on with the water plant, we were having some communication issues with our tower remotely. And so what we did do is we traced it out to a failing Ethernet switch. So we went ahead and we replaced that. And now, since then, we haven't had any problems. I've been checking with the water department regularly, and they said that everything's looking good. And lastly is on May 16th, we attended the DMEX Cybersecurity Roundtable. Their primary topic was on email security, but it was a really good open forum, and we collaborated with a lot of the other municipalities that attended, and that we covered a broad range of topics. So it was a really nice collaboration of all the counterparts.
I heard a broadcast, I think in the past few days, that Microsoft identified a bad guy out there that's pretty broad-based after critical infrastructure throughout the country. Have you heard that? Have you heard anything about that? Evidently, it's been going on for a couple of years, and they just came across it. And but it's been pretty critical infrastructure across the country has evidently been targeted.
Yes, I have heard that there's been a lot of vendors that have had concerns with internal threats. That's where a lot of that, where the very serious concerns come from, because those vendors and those compromised employees or their sub vendors could create other problems, and we are aware of those. We are doing everything we can to combat them, but unfortunately, we are patching on a regular basis. We are staying up to date with the most recent feeds from each one of those vendors. And the only thing that we can do, because that is one of very, unfortunately, many others that we're left to face with. The end result is that we bear the burden of trying to combat those types of
This seemed to be something recent, and Microsoft, I think, was the one that identified it, and it was evidently done very smoothly because it's taken them a long time to catch this, and they're just now sending out notices. I don't know if we've heard that specifically.
So we are. The good news is that we are Microsoft 365. So a lot of those patches to resolve these issues are done by Microsoft themselves. I would like to know a little bit more specifically about the one you're talking about.
I just heard a brief thing. It sounded like a big deal, but I haven't heard much more about that since.
I've been hearing a lot of internal compromises. LastPass had one among many others.
Okay.
And Microsoft is included.
Thank you.
Just on the subject of grounding, this was actually one of the 4-hour sessions at the APPA. There's been a major rewrite of National Electrical Safety Code. And some of it's for the good and some of it is questionable. The National Electrical Safety Code for grounding is now only about personnel protection and safety. And I'll get my notes out to everyone, but it talks about communication lines, Wi-Fi, pole mounted and other things. And it reduces some of the requirements from what was in the old one. And the person who did the presentation said they were not recommending that people stick to the old version or write that into their requirements. But it really clarifies, but then loosens some stuff. And the NESC used to cover both personnel and equipment protection. And now it's really about personnel protection. It was somewhat discouraging and, but I'll get my notes out and with the section, so.
Well, we are, in light of that situation, we did, run around and make sure that, all of our other grounding was, secure and electric will find a way, but we'll do our best to combat that. Any other questions?
Hey, Austin, just one, Josh. Austin and I were talking when we were at the wastewater treatment plant. We overheard some conversations around their ability that they have to kind of fend off these kind of concerns. And Austin and I were talking, I think it may have gotten mentioned to you as well. It may be a good best practice session to have a conversation with the county. I think Austin was in favor of that and they were as well. They've got the same kind of concerns we do. And it might be another best practice to just have a conversation and share different opinions.
I agree. I've been very open to bettering ourselves. So if we can collaborate with the county, in addition to, you know, how we collaborate with the other munis, then I'm fully on board with that.
I think I got that right, Austin. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you.
Sharon, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Yep.
All we have is just the one financial. It's the first month of the fiscal year. There's just a few of them that I want to get a little more specific on. For line 6 revenue other, I used historical averages to set these, but with Tower Hill and the lodge slowing down, I'm gonna have to do a rebudget for that. And line 13, professional contractual. For just the engineering fees for the water model and the main assessment, it was over the budgeted amount. And that skips me to line 26, grant revenue. With that higher than budgeted amount comes higher than budgeted grant revenue. So those two play hand in hand. Our operating income is less than budgeted. 31,000 of the shortage is coming from revenue, 12,000 is coming from expenses. Our non-operating was strong, which actually brought us better than budgeted. And our billing cycle was 4 days less than last year's. And this has been one of the most beautiful springs ever. In 2022, we had 8 days where the high was under 60 degrees, so the heaters would have been running, while this year we only had 2 in the same billing period.
Any questions?
How do we dial in the rate study that's being done with the great work that I've seen, at least, you know, in what I have seen of it with the finance committee? How do we take those two different things and blend them together for the best possible solutions? I don't know if that's a question to Richard. I'm not sure, Austin. I just curious how we bring those two pieces that seem to be very good separately, but probably even better together.
I think the finance committee is doing a lot of work on the backside, you know, between Mike and Richard and Kim. And I think you're going to start to see that kind of surface into meetings and what they've done. I think is going to be presented to the board, and hopefully what we're going to see is kind of the come to fruition of what they see in our forecasting and what UFS is also going to take a look at. And I think it's also going to come together because we're going to have a workshop, hopefully the middle to the end of June, to go over the water side when it comes to projects and the water assessment study. And I think that's going to help narrow down in the next 5 years, at least, what exactly we're going to focus in on.
And I think it's gonna help me quite a bit when we do this cost of service study and we get the information presented to have more educated questions from being on the finance committee.
Definitely going to be able to run what if scenarios now
that both the electrical utility and the water utility, to our satisfaction, have been brought to the point of proof of concept.
And we can also kind of have Dawn unpack that with the finance committee prior to coming back to the board so that those questions, those detailed questions can be asked prior to the presentation back to everybody here.
Yeah, and I think we need to make a big thanks to Mike Hogan. He has been phenomenal in both the finance and also assisting us in other ways. He is donating a lot of very, very highly qualified time. So thank you, Mike.
Amen.
So now we have three Mikes, Mike Hogan, Mike Hoffman, and Mike Vogelmuth. Oh. And
And an open mic.
that is very dangerous for me. Okay,
All right.
so any other questions there? All right, then, general forum and open discussion on certification of the results of the BPW election.
This is a typical practice. So what we do is we took everything that we collected that day. We compiled it into the results that are included in your board packet. And this is you just codifying that you accept these results. Am I right with that, Mike? Yep.
And I think, down the line, we'll do a lessons learned. I mean, on the registration process and what we can do differently. I will just say to the general public, I know there was frustration on why we can't do, like, the city didn't go to the state, but we have completely different voting requirements because everyone who is a ratepayer to the BPW has the right to vote. And so I'm not sure, and we can discuss it and look into it, but going to the state process wouldn't just complicate things even more for us. But I think we do need to look at how it's done.
Yeah, and we did have several comments about the difficulty of filling out the form for some reason, and the information that they felt maybe was not really necessary. So we should look at that and make sure we only have on there what's required. So I think that's something we should
So
look
Austin,
at
if you
before the next
put
election.
that, on one of the future calendar for a discussion for lessons learned and the registration process and specifically. Were there other topics besides the registration process that anyone heard?
When someone is not sure and they call in, how easy is it for you to check? Is it something you can go
Yeah,
back?
I open up a file and I check for their
So
name to see if
it's-
they're registered.
I think you can usually tell them
Yep.
immediately.
Yep.
Okay, that's good.
All right, swearing in of new
You do.
director, what's that?
That's an actionable item.
Oh,
To accept
do I have
the
a
results.
motion?
The motion is to certify the election results. That's it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Make a motion to certify the election results.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Earl? Oh, okay. Aye.
Register as a waive.
So 4 with 1 not present. All right, swearing in. In spite of what the agenda says, I am turning it over to our fully competent general manager.
Let's go first. Well, John.
Barbara, ladies first.
This one. Hi, Barbara. Left hand on the Bible, right hand up. I believe that's right. I repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Barbara Curtis,
Do proudly swear or affirm
do proudly swear or affirm and
Yes.
affirm
to carry out the responsibilities
to carry out the responsibilities
of the office of a director of the Board of Public Works
of the office of the Director of the Board of Public Works
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
freely acknowledging
freely acknowledging
that the powers of this office
that the powers of this office
flow from the people
flow from the people
I am privileged to represent.
I am privileged to represent.
I further swear
I further swear
and affirm
and affirm
always to place the public interest
always to place the public interest
above any special or personal interest,
above any special or personal interest,
and to respect the right
and to respect the right
of future generations
of future generations,
to share the rich historic and
share the rich historic and natural heritage
natural
of Delaware.
In doing so,
In doing so,
I will always uphold
I will always uphold
and defend the constitutions of my country
and the constitutions of my country
and my state,
and my state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
So congratulations, Barbara, and if you'll now take the hot seat.
And I'll just interject here. That was Barbara's first test of which she passed. Is either swear or affirm. You pick one.
And we see, look, we just went through that. Okay. Same thing.
Same thing.
I state your name.
I, D. Preston Lee,
Do proudly swear
do proudly swear
to carry out the responsibilities
to carry out the responsibilities
of the office of the Director of Public Works
of the office of the Director of Public Works
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
freely acknowledging
that
that the powers of this office
the powers of this office
flow from the people
flow from the people
I am privileged to represent.
I am privileged to represent.
I further swear
I further swear
always to place
always to place
the public interests
the public interests
above my special or
Above-
personal interests,
above my special or personal interest,
and to respect
and to respect
the right of future generations
the right of future generations
to share the rich historic and natural heritage
to restore the yeah, to restore the
to share the rich historic and natural
to
heritage
share the rich historic and natural
of Delaware.
interests of Delaware
Heritage. of Delaware.
heritage.
In doing so,
In doing so,
I will always uphold
I will always uphold
and defend the
and
constitutions
defend the constitutions
of my country
of my country
and my state,
and my state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And thank you, Press, for agreeing to serve again.
It's been a pleasure.
And I think with the addition of Barbara and with Press's background, we have a very well set up board for the decisions in front of us. And now with that, I will step down as president. And open it up for nominations for the office. So
So go ahead.
I would like to nominate Tom Panetta as the president, Earl Webb as the vice president, myself as the secretary, Richard Nichols as the treasurer, and Barbara Curtis as the assistant treasurer of the Board of Public Works.
I second.
well, no, it's gotta, I can't do it.
In this, because Tom, what was presented was a slate, you have a full slate of officers. It's been seconded as there. I assume everybody who has been nominated is willing to serve in the position for which they were nominated.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, Tom, you can call the vote.
Full vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. And then the last thing under this section here is appoint Barbara as the ex officio to Lewes Planning Commission. And Barbara is already on the environmental subcommittee for the Planning Commission. And I think those two tie very well together. And with Barbara's background, I think we have good representation there.
And she's also a member of the mitigation committee for the Board of Public Works. So
That's correct.
That works perfectly.
And so if, since I have a point, that will then now go to city, and at the next meeting of the city council, they will accept that. All right. Moving on. Open forum, general discussion on the wastewater treatment plant, long-range plan. I think as I stated, we had our 5th meeting last week. We'll have one in June 14th. And then probably we'll do one in July. The last meeting was really focused on financials, and it was Austin had put together the slides, and it took the numbers that were in the GHD report for the various options and applied them to an average 4,000 gallon a month bill. And I want to make it perfectly clear, this is an average bill. Individual bills will vary depending upon your usage. But it gives the public, based on that, the average bill was $77.49.
Yes.
So based upon that, wastewater portion only, a ranking and an amount for what each of the options would cost. And I think that was very, very helpful to the public. I will point out that we had 9 people from the public attend either in person or online. So I will express just like my.
I think we have to stress that those numbers will probably, well, almost impossibly be the actual numbers when we finish this. These are just for display and just magnitude of differences.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Press, because slide 6 and 7 from that meeting present the financials, and slide 7 clearly has a list of caveats. I will say these are in present dollars. If the projects were completed in all today, and we know that's not true, they are based on very high level concept reviews of the engineering for each of them. But it does give a ranking.
As you said, these are concept numbers, and they're not even planning numbers at this point. This is just, as I said, a comparison of level of costs rather than actual costs.
Yeah, and so some of the caveats we had, I think it's important to repeat them. All costs are presented on a percentage from the GHD report. The numbers come directly from Appendix D and E in the GHD report, which is approximately 24 pages of line item data. Yeah. The costs are based on current dollars. If the project was implemented today, all costs are subject to change based on design details, other rate increases for the collection system, supply chain impacts, inflation, blah, blah, blah. And so. That, anyone else want to add?
We always reserve the right to get smarter. That's the only thing I would add.
Some of us reserve the right to get stupider.
That can happen too.
Has
Speaking for myself.
Sussex County given us like a time frame if we go with them, how this would unfold? I think that would be helpful to have at the next workshop.
We've already presented that, actually, I think at the prior ones. I mean, it's a 5-year project.
But as it relates, so what would happen is the theory, and obviously there's a lot to be unpacked, is that once a decision would be made and it's just thrown out specifically to option 3, there are a lot of studies that need to be done that kind of correlates with that. So I think the idea would be if there was a consensus of the board to pursue one of those options, and it shouldn't be option 3, it would then trigger the start of those studies or working with consultants to start compiling the data needed for those studies, engaging with the regulatory bodies to kind of unpack what all comes with option 3, 3A, 3B, all the above.
And Barbara, we're going to be discussing in executive session some of the contract language that we're posing. It's not ready for public dissemination. So I will read you into all that stuff.
We really don't have a strong handle on it. And we're all assuming it's going to be at least 5 years, and that's the best we can do right now.
But what wasn't clear to me from talking to Hans was whether that period was included the time to have the constructed wetlands actually working, or whether that was from the time they start their construction, and how long they would be discharging into our canal and how often, and those kinds of.
The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, right, not clear.
Because, I mean, there's 3A and 3B and 3C. So whether it's an ocean outfall, whether it's constructed wetlands or pumping back to our discharge point, none of that has been decided at this point. As I said at the workshop, and just to reiterate it, we are pursuing option 3 to work on an agreement with the county. But everything in option 3 is contingent upon reaching an agreement with the county. Option 1 and 2 have put on abeyance, but because we don't want to spend engineering money on those if we're going to go the other way. I mean, it's public knowledge, but I mean, the GHG report cost us $250,000.
Combined.
Yeah, combined. So, we don't want to engineer all the options.
There a way we can get more public input? I assume the comment period is still open. Could we publish something to get people to look at those numbers and give their thoughts? Maybe Aaron has some thoughts on how we might do that.
No, I mean, it's all on the website, the GHG report, Appendix D and E,
Right.
the slides from them. I mean, we've tried, and anything you can suggest to help but we went from like 90 people attending to.
I wonder if an insert in the monthly bill kind of urging people.
We try and balance it just because the costs associated with inserts, obviously, there's, when you do a postcard, how much was our last postcard? It was
$2,000.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
easier to put it in with the bills, but then you have to reach out to your e-bill customers. More than happy to work with Aaron too. We've done ads in the Cape Gazette before. But what we try and do is we keep the public comment period open for an allotted amount of time after each meeting so that we can close it and then discuss those comments at the meeting. So we're going to continue as long as there's public, if there's public workshops, we're going to continue to keep public comment periods open. And each meeting, we kind of take a piece of the pie to discuss and unpack, and then obviously talk about. The last meeting, we didn't have any public comment after, so.
Correct.
So-
So we've had one since the last meeting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sharon keeps the website up to date and everything's in one collected area. And I have to thank the city. They discuss our workshop and the next ones at the city meetings, and they tend to get more participation than we do. So, we are reaching out. Aaron from Cape Gazette has been posting articles on it. So, we're open to other ideas, but I think we've kind of been doing, and I don't know that the billing inserts, I think many people, your bills don't necessarily even go to you, they go to a bill pay service.
Yeah, it's frustrating for a lot of reasons. There's obviously it's in the paper every time we're having a meeting, and it mentions right there that we're going to be discussing this subject. And look around. At the workshop with nine people, and it's concentrating on this project, which is the biggest project we've ever done. So it's really frustrating. So if you have any other ideas, we're obviously open to them, but.
Yeah, we're not shutting anything down, but we're, to use the old expression, I'm not going to use it, so.
We also send out a reminder email to every email we have on file, which is pretty much 70% of all of our customers. So they get it 7 days before the meeting happens. So if we have their email, they get a notification.
I think I was looking through some of the older presentations, and they don't all end with how long the comment period's going to be open. And that might be something we could add.
Because we've kind of done it ad hoc at the meeting.
Yeah.
Because it all depends upon when the meeting falls relative to our board meeting and other things. But yeah, we certainly can put that on the workshop.
Barbara, you got a lot of votes as did press. If you guys could come up with anything different, I think everybody on the board is willing and open to any kind of suggestions to increase the visibility of what it is that we're trying to do.
And besides visibility, we are very interested in hearing from the public, because at the end of the day, the board is going to make a decision on what's best from a fiscal, environmental, and control perspective. But so we know we're not going to please everyone, but yeah, we have to balance those three things. And cost and environmental are diametrically opposed. It doesn't mean you go all with one or the other, but Okay, anything else on this topic? Charlie?
I don't know if it's gonna help at all, but I know the largest meeting of people ever at a BPW board meeting, in my experience, was when the board wanted to put the
Electrical
large
towers.
iron poles all throughout town. And the reason why there were so many people here was because it was personalized. Like, I was gonna have right beside my house or right down the street or something. I don't know whether you can personalize this project or not in some way. They grab those people to make it really interesting to you, or if you even want to do that. It sounds like you do, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've discussed putting the wastewater treatment plant next to Earl's house and to make it personal.
I like the pump station there.
Aaron said that he's planning on doing a article week of June 6th when it gets closer to the meeting. So to keep it fresh.
Yeah, and I really do thank the Cape Gazette.
Yeah,
I think they've been,
Specifically Aaron too.
Aaron does a
He
wonderful
does-
job.
He does
Yeah,
a really good job.
he does.
thank you, Aaron. All right. Call to the public. Charlie?
I just want to inform the board, we had invited everybody that was part of the Pilot Town Road, Water and Sewer Improvements Project to the Engineering Excellence Awards banquet that was to be held in February during Engineers Week. But they dropped the ball on it, the state agency, so they didn't do it, and it just became part of ACEC business meeting last month. And you'll be proud to know that we won the silver medal.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, no, it was your project.
Yeah.
It was, so any project between $1 million and $5 million, we, that put in an application, the board's project came in second place. So I guess I'm going to go on the record of saying that I was pretty disappointed that we lost to a boardwalk at, what's the state park in Harrington called?
Is that Trap Pond?
No, the other.
Killens.
Killen's Pond. I was like, really, we did this gigantic sewer and water project and we lost to a boardwalk in one of their ponds, but.
Can't win them. You can't win them all, Troy. You do so, you do get a lot of them though.
But you won a silver medal, so.
Congratulations.
But I mean, I really do thank GHD, the staff, the contractors we had, and
GMB.
yeah, what I said. Oh. You guys need to change your names. I mean, or I want to thank Mike. But also, I think we really need to thank the public. It was a long project. It was disruptive. But unfortunately, that kind of comes with the projects, you know, so we thank everyone for that. All right, call to the press.
Yeah,
We have one question. Will the BPW be involved in dark sky lighting, or will they implement dark sky lighting and street lights?
I think the easiest answer is we're actively working with both the city and the BPW to kind of work through that process. Barbara's going to be on the subcommittee, the environmental subcommittee. So I think between both entities, we'll be working together through that process. Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.